Well, it's the end. We've talked about all the conferences, all the big three, everyone in between. We talked about it for about probably a good hour straight. Mm-hmm. So, overall, E3 2013.
There's a few trends I've noticed throughout, besides the fact that the Xbox One and PlayStation 4 come out this year. First thing, third parties are not going to do anything for the Wii U. Yeah. That's one thing we noticed right off the bat. In fact, handhelds in general, there's not going to be anything.
I was surprised by the lack of support for 3DS. Even for Nintendo, it was even kind of small. But I think that Nintendo perceives that right now in America, what it needs is a real big phenomenon, which would be Pokemon. As long as Nintendo releases games for the system, it's still going to do well. Obviously, Animal Crossing did very well. It's doing right now really well. Luigi's Mansion did very well. Even
Awakening did very well.
And Fire Emblem Awakening did well. So there really is no problem with the 3DS. The Vita is in its death throes. It's there.
Besides Tearaway, I really don't see anything jumping out and screaming at us.
Yeah, it's pretty much a device to have indie games and some download stuff. I don't mean to badmouth the Vita, but obviously the Vita's got some issues, but it's got some explaining to do.
I don't know what's wrong with what Sony's doing. Sony in Japan has a ton of games that are kind of like Monster Hunter, but aren't Monster Hunter. And I think that's what they're trying to do. They're trying to sell it as the Monster Hunter device, and Monster Hunter's not on it.
Yeah, and there was this negativity towards Xbox One continues even after E3.
Yes, during conference, I think a lot of people just didn't really want to play the Xbox One because they're like, we're writing that off because of the DRM stuff.
Which, that leads a lot of questions. If the Xbox One is being shunned and does fail to sell, the multi-platform strategy of releasing on 3 platforms will no longer be available. You can release your game on PS4, Xbox One, and PC now, but if the Xbox One falters, you have two options, PC and PS4. That's not viable anymore. And that's even more that's pretty concerning too. And you can't support the Wii U because it's a dead platform, according to people.
Third parties.
Yeah, and right now the Wii U needs to get more games on it that'll sell the system, in this case Nintendo games. Obviously the system has no major selling Nintendo game other than New Super Mario Bros. U, and the high attach ratio would tell you that. But obviously by the end of this holiday season it should bounce back up at least somewhat. Will the other two crush it? I have my doubts. I don't think the Wii U is going to make any records, but I think that the PS4 and
I think the PS4 might make a lot of records because the fact is that people who have Xbox 360s and want to go next gen are seeing that there's a DRM thing on the new Xbox and saying, you know what, the same third-party games are on the PlayStation. I'm just going to buy a PS4.
Yeah, do you think we're going to end up in another generation like the PS2, Xbox, and GameCube, where where there's one system that sells over 60% of the market share, and the other two are fighting for the scraps?
That might happen. This whole PR thing, the whole push on the no DRM by Sony, it was a clear, direct PR statement to get the people who are frustrated with Microsoft to actually jump ship.
Yeah, I think there's some people who will. And, obviously some people who are frustrated with Microsoft are going to jump ship to Sony, and they're not going to jump ship to Nintendo. At least
because they want next gen.
Because they want next gen. And that's something that Nintendo has to fight on its own. That's their battle. Their battle is to try and convince people, hey,
you can have your next gen, but we have the games that everybody wants.
Nintend's best strategy will be to sell their games to the highest extent and be able to be a secondary console for some people. That's how the Wii was so successful. It became a second console for people. But the Xbox One, really the only thing I can say is that out of everything that came out, the only real thing that can be said, there's no winners, but Microsoft lost.
Yes, because they really, I don't know why they have this. After hearing all this. There's bad things from all these people, even big fans for them, saying, "Why are you doing this? Why don't they just flat out change the policy?"
We didn't even talk about this, but there was interviews where the guys were like, "Hey, this is terrible. This is." People were saying, "Hey, what can you say about this?" And they're like, "Oh, we'll just buy a 360." There was a level of arrogance that was being displayed at this E3 by the management and the people who were being interviewed that can't be easily undone by.
They were outright saying. It's if you can't afford to pay online, if you don't like our DRM, well, go buy another Xbox 360. Just leave us because you're not for us.
Or rather, you are for us, but for the past us.
What is that? What is that? What happened between now and then? That all this back then, into now, that made Microsoft flat out saying, you know what, we don't need you guys anymore.
Yeah, and the other thing is, what if the Xbox One succeeds? And that's something that this E3 walking out, everyone's going, well, I guess it's the PS4 generation. Essentially, is what I feel a lot of people say.
But really, you can talk the talk, but until people walk the walk, when the Xbox One comes out in stores, there's not going to be anything.
I think the overall experience from what I've been seeing is that people were really positive for Sony, even if it was just for the PR element of it. People were very negative for Microsoft, definitely for its DRM, and people were
disappointed with Nintendo's conservatism, but but the games they liked.
Well, and the end result is that it's an overall. Even with that thought process, a lot of the mainstream media looked at Nintendo with indifference. A lot of the time, they're like, "It's Nintendo. They're going to act like Nintendo. There's no way to stop them from being Nintendo. If I don't like Nintendo, I'm just going to walk away." And Nintendo's trying to be like this old, "Hey guys, look at us. We're still here," and a lot of people have already walked away. And I think that's one of the biggest concerns going into this generation as it finally hits full speed. It's going to be a bloodbath. And the only thing I can think about coming out of the C3 is that Sony is coming out the victor already.
People have already made the decision.
Yeah.
And now, there are some trends that I want to point out. First off, the realistic racers.
Realistic racers, there were 5, and there was Mario Kart.
And they're all, and most of them in Mario Kart, but Mario Kart's come out next year. All the 5 that we're talking about coming out this holiday season.
So obviously we're going to see a few bombs. We're going to probably see Gran Turismo 6 do pretty well, and we're probably going to see Need for Speed do pretty well. We will not see The Crew or Drive Club do well.
Because they're new names.
Because they're new names, and on top of that, they're also coming out on new platforms. Which is actually one of the things we're going to see. Cross-gen was another big trend.
One of the big problems that I had with it was with cross-gen games, which is why I think it's confusing for gamers in general, is that they show off these games that, are they actually showing us the current-gen stuff? Are they showing us the next-gen stuff? And everything kind of looks the same. I don't know. What do we do? And the fact is that these cross-gen games are causing a lot of confusion. It's like, where's the games that are exclusive to these platforms, and why is everything coming out on both?
We're also getting a lot of things where, like, you're seeing, okay, there's coming up for 5 systems, PS3, 360, PS4, Xbox One, PC, but this one's only coming out to PS4, 360, and so it's coming out to, like, without seeing a list of all the games coming out to every platform, it's very hard to tell what's coming out for what.
So I get a PS4, I get all these games. Well, yeah, I wanted that game too. Well, what platform do I want that has that game? And it's like this weird network of figuring out what you have. And in fact, they're not backward compatible with one another. So you can't buy a PS3 game and play on a PS4, and you can't buy an Xbox 360 game and play on your an Xbox One.
Yeah.
It's really causing conflict.
I think that the lack of backwards compatibility might slow down people buying the systems in general.
But one thing,
especially with the cross-gen.
There was one platform that was consistent, PC. I noticed that a lot. Even in the next-gen platforms, they always say PC.
Yeah.
So you're telling us that we can just buy a PC and get access to all these games. Yeah. And that's what people are getting. Plus, also, I'm seeing a huge trend towards mobile integration.
Yeah.
A lot of it. I mean, I think every third party brought up the fact you can pull out your phone and use your phone. Like, do they even know the phone is what's taking away a lot of their business? And the phone is everywhere. So if I don't have a phone, I can't get access to that function.
Well, you have a phone. I think that's what people are expecting.
Well, anyway, okay, but like, you're getting at it.
Yeah.
It's like suddenly people who don't have the luxury of having like an iPad or something can't get access to that function. It's like, so that's putting on a paywall.
Yeah, and then of course people are saying like the DRM is against the lower income people.
Yes.
It's actually preventing them from buying games they want to play because they can't afford it.
No, yeah.
Yeah, and so now we're getting to the point of a few generations ago where systems were too expensive for people to afford. I think this is going to be a long generation going in.
We're getting into a generation of where services are more a problem. Your policies are going to
more
the problem, not the hardware.
Yeah,
which is I think worse.
Yeah, so I mean, this E3 has got a lot of questions to answer still going into this holiday season. In my opinion, it was a very odd E3. Not saying it was a bad E3.
Well, I think it's odd in the sense that we've seen new console when they announced the PS3 and the Wii back then. It felt more. The industry was much more alive. The industry had a lot more developers, and it was just a lot more friendlier. Now it's not. The industry is still being hit by the recession. It's really breaking apart. We've lost THQ. We've lost a lot of developers, and everyone is kind of like, this game could end us. Even the big guys are like, this one has to sell, and they're going way overboard. They need to work within their means, and they're not, and that's really going to hurt them.
And that's why the whole DRM discussion came into play.
Yeah, because we can't. This is an industry that's not standing. It's going to fall over, and this crash is going to burn.
That sounds a lot like Sterling.
Well,
but
that's what's going to happen.
On that note, we've been ranting long enough about nothing in general, and that's pretty much our thoughts, unedited and whatnot, or actually severely edited, on E3 2013 and into the rest of 2013. Our next major event is going to be New York Comic Con in October, so we have a lot of time between then and then. So expect some other stuff from us until October. In the meantime, That's E3 2013. Click on it. Click on the video anywhere. We'll go back to Nintendo's discussion on Nintendo's conference. Anyways, that's
Yep. Just remember to start saving up because the holiday season's right around the corner.
It is right around the corner, isn't it?
I gotta get a second job.